What follows is the next installment in a series looking at Wraith the Oblivion from the perspective of its 20th anniversary edition. Sometimes this will be easy, sometimes this will be a joy, sometimes this will be disappointing and frustrating. Not all things can please all readers in a work this size. Please join me as I explore.
Okay, now we're going to progress with this series and move into the third chapter, Rules. So let's see what we have. We're now pushing page 100. Chapter 2 ended on page 93. And Rules, after we get our kind of semi-mysterious cloaked figure page, starts on page 95. Okay? So, we've previously talked about role-playing games in the introduction and kind of worked our way through that a couple times. Now, so how does this chapter for Rules start? Conceivably, as you go through a book of this size and the way people tend to approach things, surveys I've done show some people go directly to the systems or rules chapters, some people go looking for examples of play, some people go straight to character creation, some people start at the beginning and read all the way through. We have to expect that people are going to jump around in the text, so some revisiting of certain topics is expected. So we've got, in games like baseball, tic-tac-toe, or poker, rules help players play a game without too much arguing about what happened. Like other games, Wraith's rules help players decide what characters can do without too much arguing. Okay. However, too many or too detailed rules result in more time spent looking up a section and arguing if it applies than actually playing. Wraith's rules define how to determine what happens fairly in a way that is simple and flexible. And I leave it to you, the player, to determine if that's true or not. Now, on this very page, at the very bottom, in the bottom corner, is a piece of box text called the Golden Rule. People who are familiar with Storyteller know about the Golden Rule, which is if you don't like it, don't use it. And it says it's the Golden Rule of Wraith, and the most important part of the game is the story. Use or don't use specific bits of this book as you see fit. Rules should help streamline and enhance play, not get in the way. Okay, so there's an ethos of play represented here. It's a little incoherent, but not as bad as what we saw in the introduction. So we've got, if you don't like something, don't use it. Okay, why not? Well, because the story is the most important thing, and if we look at the preceding 3 paragraphs, if you're going to spend time arguing about a rule rather than having fun playing through the decision-making process of the story, then there's a problem and you need to fix it. All right? It tells us that their ethos for play is that rules should help streamline and enhance. Right? They shouldn't be some kind of barrier that, oh, I want to do X, so I need to look up this rule to find out how. They don't want it to work that way. They want it to be intuitive. They want it to have flow. Okay. Now, it would be nice if they would refine this process of writing the Golden Rule down to state that clearly, because this, as clear as it seems, isn't. Okay, the first subheader in this section is, or the first header in this section is time. Okay, and it simply breaks it down by the categories by which the game system will refer to time. So powers and whatnot will have a certain duration. They're going to use game speak. It's going to apply here. So we've got turn, scene, downtime, chapter, story, chronicle. So this is the first official appearance of chronicle so far. Campaign has been used extensively throughout. Okay, and then it refers us to chapter 9, drama, for the specific examples for how things are used. Okay, so that's easy. Some nice art here. Then rolling dice, section with subsections, how many dice, when do you roll dice, how does dice rolling work, which has the first sentence To make a dice roll, do this. Yeah, anyway, actions. It comes next as the next header. Trait ratings, right? Difficulty, success, and failure, and difficulty number. So it's important to realize that this takes us back to the days of Storyteller when difficulty was variable. And some people didn't like that. Some people had trouble with it. Some people say, well, how can I know? And that kind of stuff. But if it seems awkward, it's a leap of faith, right? You are given a system of what a trait of 0 up to a trait of 5 means. Just in text, we've got abysmal, poor, average, good, exceptional, and superb. And we have a similar thing laid out for the difficulties. The minimum difficulty, if there's going to be a roll at all, will be 3. There's no point in going lower. And the maximum listed difficulty is technically 10, but in this chart it's 9. All right, so it goes from easy, routine, straightforward, standard, challenging, difficult, extremely difficult. It's not really necessary to memorize those terms. It's necessary to understand the progression of it, and it's a pretty smooth, right? What's the difference in your head between easy or routine, right? Establish that difference for yourself, and you'll start feeling more comfortable with difficulty number. What's the difference between straightforward and standard, between standard and challenging, right? Challenging and difficult, difficult and extremely difficult, and the 10 rating of failure is almost certain, nearly impossible. Okay, so in addition to setting the difficulty, we need to be aware of asking for more than one success, right? So just getting one success or just requiring one success means that only a marginal effort is required, right? The degree of success, 1 success is marginal, 2 successes is moderate, 3 successes is complete, 4 successes is exceptional, and 5 is phenomenal, right? So you could set a difficulty of 3, and someone could roll only 1 3, and everything else is a bunch of 2s, conceivably, right? With 1 success, we would consider that to be marginal, even at such an easy task. Well, how are we going to describe that? If we keep it in our heads that if 3 successes are rolled, that this is considered to be a complete, the task is done exactly how you wanted it. That's an important consideration. Okay? If no successes at all are rolled, then we're getting into failure territory. If more successes than you need are rolled, then we can get some perks or bonuses. If less than complete, well, there's some interesting situation that arises from it. And that's really all you need to keep in your mind. You're looking for 3 of whatever number you asked for. And if you get less but not 0, something that they wanted hasn't quite been achieved. And if they get more than 3, then they get some extra perk from how well they did. But if they get 0 or less, and how do you get less than 0? Then we're in failure territory. Okay, so we've got a significant number of examples as we go through. We have fairly clear explanation. If anything has been explained and practiced and twisted and molded and house ruled and whatever, argued about over the long, long life of the World of Darkness and the Storyteller system, it's this chapter. And this chapter shows the benefit of all of that argument, right? So we move from the failure section into the automatic success section. Now, this is a particular thing of mine. If there was ever a section in any rule book for any set of rules that gets glossed over, missed, or misunderstood, it's something along this lines, the automatic success. Because what it's telling you is, if you look down at a character's traits and you realize that they have a dice pool that is more than adequate to succeed, you don't ask them to roll. Unless there's something so important that the stakes are so high, it increases the drama. But if they do have such a high dice pool and those dramatic stakes are absent, then the way to achieve the right kind of drama, that positive, character reaffirming drama, is to provide the automatic success. You are good enough to just do it. You don't need to roll, right? This is as important as bringing down one of those high risk rolls. This is a character defining thing. You don't need to roll for that. They do, you don't. But anyway, then we get into optional rolls. We describe what the botch is in this system. No die in a dice pool is a success, and at least one die is a 1. So when ones exceed successes, without there being any successes. Okay. Multiple actions in split dice pools, extended actions, resisted actions, teamwork, trying again. Complications or complicating is a new thing, right? Optional rules can add detail, but if it's too much detail, don't use them. Okay, now we get a gaming term lexicon to help you understand the system. Then we have a Wraith game term lexicon to help you understand Wraiths, and that ends this chapter. All in all, I think it's a clear explanation of how to understand the core or the heart of the system so that you can address the rest of the book with confidence, right? How are the dice going to impact the flow of play from the player side and from the game master or storyteller side, right? What's the storyteller going to have to ask for? And what will the player characters need to do as their activity? The rolling of the dice, the interpreting of the results, right? The announcing of the results, and then the storyteller informing them what exactly is going to happen next in the way that the group plays. You know, the outcome of that roll means this, so how do you respond, or how, describe what it is that you're going to do. So, very successful, very short chapter. Chapter 4, obviously, is next. Until then.